So I wanted to ask you, one of the things that I'm trying to do with this series is stories that I really love, that I want to help share. And you have one of my favorite Mitch Hedberg stories in the world, probably my favorite Mitch Hedberg stories,
Oh,
'cause I
yeah.
only know so many people who knew him firsthand, and you did. So I was wondering if you would share that story.
Okay. Yeah, I I will share the story, but I wanna preface this story in saying that it is a story of kindness,
Yes.
and, it's a story of just an absolutely sweet person, and so, Mitch was, kinda open micing and doing some gigs around Seattle and everything, and I told him one time, I said, "Man, you gotta see some other audiences. I think it would help you, and I think audiences would love what you're doing because it was very different." And by the way, it wasn't really what we know Mitch to be. He was working on that, right? So it was
Mm.
very newer. The setups were longer, and it wasn't as quick as he learned all that kind of later. But we all knew the dude was really funny. Like he was, we'd sit in the back and we couldn't wait to see his open mic sets. It was a blast to
He
watch him.
was that guy.
Yeah, yeah. Comics loved him more than the audience most of the time, and there are sometimes audiences would really click, and you'd get so excited for him. But so anyway, I said you got to get. So I had a chance to offer him a gig down in Medford, Oregon, which is 9 hour drive, 8.5 to 9 hours. It's a long ways.
Yeah.
And I said, "Do you want to go do this gig with me?" And he said, "Yeah." Well, back then, oftentimes the feature act would drive the headliner, but I knew Mitch didn't have a car, and I knew he was broke, so I said, "Hey, I'll drive and I'll pick you up." And so about halfway, I think we're near Salem or something. I said, "Hey, I need to get gas and grab some. We can grab some lunch." And so we pull over and he goes, "Hey, man, I can't pay you for gas." Till after we get paid tonight. And I said, Mitch, don't worry about gas. I was heading that way anyway. I wasn't going to charge you for gas. And so we put gas, and then I bought him lunch, and because I appreciate it, man. They're willing to be in the car for 9 hours for basically $100, right? I mean, I appreciate that he came with me, and I like hanging out with him. We got along real well, and we had great conversations and stuff. So I buy him lunch, and so he's like really appreciative. Thank you so much, and Mitch, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. So we do the gig. It's a bar in Medford, Oregon, and then afterwards, everybody goes to this other bar where there's a live band, and basically half the people in the show are going to be at this small club listen to music. So we go over there, and Mitch did a good job, had money in his pocket, right? So we're hanging out at the bar. At the time, uh, I had been dating my wife for about like 9 months, and smoking was allowed indoors. So I kind of told Mitch, I go, "Hey man, I'm gonna head back to the hotel, and if you need a ride back, let me know." And he's sitting there talking to this woman at the bar, and I said, "If you need a lift, let me know, and I'll come and pick you up." And he goes, "Don't worry, man, I'll grab a cab." And I go, "Dude, this is Medford, Oregon. There's no cabs." I said, "There's probably one cab driver, and I bet you he's asleep right now."
Yeah.
Um, so I said, "Give me a call. It's not a problem. I'll be awake. I just got to get out of the smoke." And so I went to my room, and I'm just sitting there, and I don't mean to be so graphic, but I'm sitting there watching Letterman in boxer shorts. There's a
Mhm.
knock at the door. I open the door, and there's Mitch standing there in boxer shorts, and I figured he was coming to ask me what time we're leaving in the morning, if he has to set an alarm or whatever, because that's something you kind of need to figure out. Like, when are we leaving
Right.
town? We have a 9 hour drive back tomorrow.
And this was pre-text messaging. This was
Yes.
pre-cell phone.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. And it's pre-text messaging. He doesn't want to call my room because that might wake me up. So he's tapping on the door lightly because if I'm awake, I'll answer the door. So that's why we're standing there looking at each other in boxer shorts. So I said, "Hey, what's up, Mitch?" And he goes, "Hey, man." He goes, "You know that woman I was talking to?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "She's in my room, man." Which is really unlike Mitch. Mitch wasn't one of those guys that bragged about his road stuff. It just wasn't.
Mhm.
It was very bizarre. And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I was talking to her, man, and yeah, she's into it." And I went, "She's into it?" Like, I don't know what. and I was this is kind of awkward, and he goes, yeah, if you wanna come over, and I realized what he's offering me,
Mhm.
and I just went, oh wow, I didn't know what I didn't know what to think. That's just I never like even thought, and and I don't know what to say at all. Like, but
Sure.
but I realize this is really true the nicest thing any comedian's ever done for me and will ever do for me. You know what I mean? Like it's like bowling a 300. It will only be tied. No one will ever top this. Right? The nicest comedian will never give me what this guy's about to offer because comics do not share in that arena, right? And I was just like, so what there was this sort of odd, kind of weird thing for me, especially me. I'm a very square person, and like I don't mean to be. It's just kind of how I am. I'm just kind of boring,
Sure.
and so it was a lot for me to process. But under it all, I'm thinking this is so sweet. This is so nice, right?
It's the
But it's
aloha
like
spirit.
this is the most aloha spirit ever. So 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 I don't know what to say, and like any uncomfortable comedian, what do? I try and make a joke. Oh, Mitch, thanks, man, but uh, I said I'm good, and then I said, I mean, if you could have her say my name at some point, that'd be fine, right? Thinking I'll make some goofy joke, right? And it's a bad joke, I know. So Mitch, he pauses and he goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna go." and and I was like, "Yeah, okay, Mitch, I'll see you tomorrow." And it was just the funniest thing. And like I said, it just it's a weird story to tell about this revered comic and everything. And for a long time, I want to say I didn't tell that story. No one really knew about it. I think I told one comedian friend of mine and said, "Don't tell anybody." And we were cracking up about it, just But I said, don't, and he didn't. He didn't say anything to anyone. And then a few years after his death, he was saying a few of us were sitting around. He goes, "You should tell that story." And I said,
Yeah.
"No, man." He goes, "Hey, he's been dead a few years, because I didn't want to be, especially as he got more successful. I didn't want to seem do that thing where like, well, he's a star. Well, let me tell you this: when I was, when I took him to a gig, I didn't want to be that guy, because I don't want to be the comedian that's always trying to say like, I know famous guys,
Sure, sure, sure.
and so I didn't tell it, but a few of us were sitting around, and he said, tell the story. I think Mitch would laugh about this, and so I did tell the story, so it became a little more public. But it is truly a story, not so much about a comic, offering me to join him in a thing,
Yeah.
but it was more just he was so appreciative that number one, I got him a gig outside of Seattle. Number two, I paid for gas and lunch, and then told him about the bar hangout afterwards. Took him there. You know what I mean? Like he was really thrilled. Like he was doing the road comic thing. Right? He had a hotel, and not that that was the first time he had done gigs, but he didn't do a
Right.
lot of them. But he got to do the road comic, so there was a lot in his mind of like, man, I really appreciate it. And if I can't give Kermit money, can I do anything for him? It was like, so it's really just it's a sweet story in its heart, like in its very
Yeah.
basic form.
Well, and I think it's also, I mean, yeah, it is a very sweet story, and it's also, I think, a very proper story. I mean, look, he had a discussion with her. She can say it's not like he assumed or anything like that.
No,
Like he
he
had
did
a
not assume.
discussion with
Yeah,
her,
yeah,
which, by the way, kind of like put his evening at risk
right.
because she might have said, "You weirdo, get out of, I'm out of here," or something like that.
Absolutely,
But he's like, "No, I
absolutely.
wanna I wanna try to include my friend. Let's see if she's," and she said, "Yeah, that sounds cool. I'm into it." And so
Yeah.
he also went to the other potential party for consent, and you awkwardly said, "No, thank you." And he said, "Cool, see you
Yeah,
later." I mean,
yeah,
that's kind of a valuable, I think, proper, consenting, sex positive story.
yeah. I guess it is right, and I love just the possibility that the conversation started with him saying, "So did you enjoy Kermit's set? Did you think he was funny?"
How much did you enjoy his set? No, I think that's a really wonderful story, man. I think it really is, and I think it's like an interesting because I mean I never got to meet him, but like I can kind of picture it, like
Yeah,
just from like seeing him on stage and stuff like that, and it also speaks to kind of the majesty of the road. Like I'll never forget just like the play by play of my first Tribble run.
yeah.
Like, I'll never forget, and for anyone not the Triple Run is this string of gigs that I don't think it exists anymore,
Nope.
actually.
No,
Yeah,
he
he hung up
retired about
he
2 years ago.
yes, so it's a string of gigs where you drive all throughout the Northwest, playing these one-night shows in everything from bowling alleys to hotel event spaces for, like, no money, but you have such an amazing, amazing time, and I remember my first booking, like, I still remember it. I literally saved the itinerary.
Oh, did you
And
really?
in, like, a special that like, they send you an itinerary, and, of course, like, these itineraries are just epically hilarious all in themselves because they have to have all these disclaimers of, "Don't show up drunk," your meal ticket does not include booze. Please don't order 2 prime ribs when you're getting a comp dinner because there's always been usually, it's like 1 or 2 comics ruin it for
Yep.
everyone
Yep,
else.
absolutely.
Like, everyone else is reasonable, but then, like, one person's like, "Oh, I get a comp meal. I'll take 5 prime ribs and 2, full dessert." It's like, "Okay, dude, like, we get it. We food is part of our compensation, but when you overdo it, they're gonna, like yeah, they're gonna take that away." So,
Yeah. Yeah, and
it's
then the next time you come back, it's half price on cheese sticks is what you're offered. You know what I mean?
right,
It's
exactly.
always that way. Yeah.
Yeah, they take it back where they're just like, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we give you 10% off
Yeah.
food," and it's
Yep.
like, "Just give me nothing then." Like,
Yes.
just get do you want me to take 10% off my show? Like, what do you like?
But yeah, those so I'm the same way. I remember the first 2 weeks after I quit my day job going out for those gigs and those Tribble gigs, the drives, every morning you're packing your bag and you're going to the next town. Those drives could be anywhere from 2 to 8 hours to the next town.
Yeah,
I remember the Montana run was like Missoula Tuesday, Helena Wednesday, Thursday way out in Butte. Then you'd come back to Kalispell, which is 4 hours the other way, and then out to Billings, which is 5 hours. You got to go past Butte to get to Billings, but that's
right.
just the way the club wanted, right? That club didn't want a Thursday; they wanted a Friday, so he had to kind of do it that way. And they were long drives. You got to really know the comedian you were working with, for better or worse. Some of them you realize I don't really like this person, or they realize they don't really like you, and now you're in the car for 4 hours a day for the next week. It was
Yeah,
it's what it was. It was kind of this badge of honor we all wore, right? If you were a Northwest comic, you did those runs, and you came back with maybe a little bit of money if your car didn't break down, and but you had the badge of like I did it, and oh, you did the Montana run, and we would feel it in our hearts,
dude, I had a strut in my step when I got back,
Yeah.
and honestly, I mean, there's no way. I definitely lost money. Like, there's no because I
Yeah.
did like it was the Montana run, but it was like what was left of the Montana run, even at that point in time. So
Right.
it was like
Right.
you were out for 6 days, but you only had gigs on 3 of them.
Yeah.
And when you don't have a gig, they don't give you a hotel, like nothing. So you're just trying to figure it out.
Right.
So I mean,
Right.
yeah, it was like there's no way I made a dime when all was said and
Right.
done. But I was just so freaking excited.
Yeah.
I didn't care. And in the next, like the next week when I showed up for open bike, like I kind of had a strut. And people were just like, "Whoa, Ron's back from his Tribble run.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
next week's the Tonight Show, right? Not quite."
Luckily for me, when I started, you could go out for 3 weeks and have 2 days off, right? So you
Yeah, see,
could
that's
you could sleep at a rest area, or maybe throw together a Motel 6 money or something like that, for one of the nights. But you could actually work 5-6 nights a week, and then maybe have the Sunday off.
yeah, see, those
Yeah.
runs were very few and far
Right.
between by the time I was there. But now it's like, I mean, dude, it's so crazy because now, like, I'm in a situation where I'm talking about what it used to be like when I was starting out. Because now it's even more bleak
Yeah.
than when I started. Because it's like,
Yeah.
when I was, like coming up, like 20s coming up, whatever. you could still get by as a feature
Right.
in many cases. Like
Right.
you had to be very smart about it. You had to have usually you would have to especially if you were younger, like you'd want to try to do some colleges and stuff like that. But you could get by as like mainly a feature act and make enough money to live. I don't know if that's still the case anymore.
It's not. It really isn't. And what's happened a lot is that social media has made it easier to find and understand what open mic is. When
Mhm.
when we started, it really was you had to go down to the comedy club or call, find out how it works, when are signups and everything. And then you had no idea if you could do it, right? But now people are watching open mic videos online and they go, "Oh, I can be that bad." And and so and I'm not judging, by the way. We all, when we do open mic, when you first start, you're bad. You just have to learn
Mhm.
how to do it, right? And so I think now with more people trying comedy, more people doing it, any town with any decent size that has one or two major clubs, they are now having enough features in their town where they don't have to book anybody from outside. That saves them a hotel room or a bigger condo or whatever. That saves them money, and they can just pay a local feature, right? So it's harder to go on the road as a feature now because there are some cities that just they don't really need another feature,
Right.
and so it has gotten so much more difficult. The thing now is to just try and develop a crowd through your social media and then travel based on them, or if a relatively well-known headliner who can bring their own openers or features likes you, then they'll bring you to that club. But other than that, it's really difficult as a feature now. It's hard.
Yeah. So in closing, what do you want to plug?
Oh, um, uh, I really don't have that much to plug, man. I've got uh, uh, I'm gonna start learning Instagram. My kids opened an Instagram for me,
There
and
you go.
I
There
know
you
it's,
go.
they're like, Dad, how can you be a comedian and not be on Instagram? Because they see comedian clips coming through every day, So I'm gonna be,
Dude, look it up then on Instagram.
yeah,
That
yeah,
guy that guy's a monster on
yeah,
Instagram.
yeah. So I'm gonna start using that, and yeah, just still doing comedy on the road, and on the Wednesday music on Facebook Live. I do a 6 p.m. Pacific time. I do a Wednesday music show.
Where
So
can people find that? Is it just Kermit Apio, your personal page,
yeah,
or is it a
yeah. You
comedy?
just go to
Okay.
my personal page, and it pops up. Oh, well, because I'm Hawaiian, it's never right at 6 o'clock. It's usually I'm trying to click on things, and then I look up at the clock on my computer, like, oh, it's 6:03. All right, got to get on there. um, so there's that, and yeah, comedy's been pretty busy, which is great. I'm occasionally still I go out on tour with Brian Regan, which I'm very lucky and happy about. He's amazing. So